Welcome to the Last Mile Delivery Podcast, your front row seat to the technological advancements shaping the future of last mile logistics. This podcast includes recordings from our Last Mile Delivery meetup, offering you exclusive insights and discussions about the cutting edge of the final mile in logistics. If you are interested in finding out more about upcoming events, technological updates, and industry news, subscribe to the Bettermile newsletter. The link is in our bio.
Welcome to the Last Mile Delivery Meetup. How are you guys feeling today? I can't hear you. How are you feeling today? Can you remember when we met the last time? It was mid of February. Half of the people were sick at home with flu, and the other half of the people were here recovering from the flu. It was really, that was a different time. Welcome to our 9th Last Mile Delivery Meetup, and welcome to spring in Berlin. Isn't that a nice time, right? It's beautiful. So, May is the month of love. And what do we love? We love parcels, obviously, right? And parcel delivery. This is what this is all about. And spring is also the season where actually you're always wearing the wrong thing, right? Whether it's too cold or too hot, you barely can find the sweet spot. You know, in the morning it's freezing cold, and then you don't really know what's happening. So a little bit like parcel logistics in urban delivery, you know, whatever you do it a little wrong, you know? It's a little bit too condensed. When you take a bike, you cannot take the big parcels. You know, all these interdependencies remind me a little bit of spring and what I'm wearing at spring. This will be our topic today. Navigating like the urban delivery. Can I get my screen, please? Exactly. We're over this one. Yeah, this was it, our last event, perfecting post-purchase from basket to doorstep. Maybe you've participated or read the review. Thanks everyone who joined our number 8 Last Mile Delivery meetup to making it a success. We took a look at the customer journey, at parcel delivery from a customer journey, from an e-commerce perspective. That was really interesting. Maybe you guys remember we had over Anela, who took a perspective from the carrier side, from GLS. We had over Kerstin Zerbe from BVB, from the Football Club, coming from a brand, also maintaining a store, an e-commerce store, and what role parcel delivery plays in their customer journey. We had representatives from Vida XL and from Flaconi, online perfume store, also really interesting, their perspective on end-to-end customer journey, what happens when last mile delivery breaks, and how this fires back to e-commerce stores. So that was really interesting. And we also took a look on the more technological e-commerce perspective with Amanda on how to integrate locker delivery, one of the big topics in parcel delivery, into e-commerce stores, you know, and using widgets and adapters to actually make this happening. So thanks everyone for making this a success. Today, we'll again have roughly 1,000 participants signed up. We have maybe not fully 100 people, but maybe 80 people here on site. The weather is good. The rest will join online, maybe in Prinzenbad, taking a dip already. We're having 350 organizations, we counted, delivery companies. We have, so now my slides are jumping. We have delivery companies. Welcome as a new joiner, Dragonfly from the US. We have postal operators. Here we have as new joiners Postenbring and the Malaysian Post. Very cordial welcome. From our side, we have from our startups and growth companies, many new joiners. Paddle and Post, Psychologica, and Ono. And from the solution providers and tech platforms, we have Umo and Ride Logics, also fitting the topic of urban delivery and bike delivery. This is their playing fields. From the perspective of the retail brand and e-commerce platforms, we have, as a new joiner, KFC. I would be interested in their view. Cordial invitation to come as a speaker at one of our next delivery meetups, dear people from KFC. So really interested about your logistic challenges. So what is this all about? It is about establishing a community, a network that contributes to an exchange of hands-on experience and exciting tech insights in the last mile delivery industry. So we're glad to host you tonight. This is the space of Bettermile. We're roughly 100 thinkers and makers operating in 20 countries with a SaaS product suite, and we're in the market roughly for 8 years. What we do is basically geospatial services, address normalization, geocoding. Second pillar is our routing product, which takes care of the best sequence for the delivery drivers, whether it is on vans or bikes. We'll hear more about it today, and the respective applications. The end consignee, the receiver side of things, so that they understand how many stops is my delivery away, when's the estimated time of arrival, and also the domain of the warehouses or depots, so that they understand what's the status of my fleet, where any critical conditions, where I need to send a rescue driver, and also many more analytical functions that come with it. So far with the marketing part. If you want to know more about Bettermile, please sign up to our newsletters. This is also where you will get an info on our next meetups. And please also do not forget to follow us on LinkedIn and download our studies, for example, about real-time tracking and the demands in the market that we regularly publish on our website. So, our topic today, I want to give you a little starting ramp to the topic of navigating urban delivery challenges. So, in parcel logistics, it is as with any other company, right? Those will be successful that fastly adapt to the local prerequisites that they find. And our urban environments change heavily, and we see around the world how logistics companies adapt to these new circumstances. In China, with autonomous vehicles and with drone delivery, stationed drone delivery, we see developments in the US who do their little like micro depots on the sidewalk actually, but they will find solutions around it, right? We always find solutions around it. Some other examples from European metro areas, also with autonomous delivery, a lot of bike delivery in Europe, but even ships included. So that's really interested to see how these local prerequisites get adapted to. And I mean, do you guys believe in robotic delivery? I mean, end-to-end home delivery with robots? Maybe. I would be curious how they enter our offices and understand that they have to go through the first entry gate, through the first courtyard, then turn left, and then take the elevator to the 4th floor. You are here now, right? But how do you technologically create understanding for this and orchestrate this? This is really difficult. So it will be interesting in the future how technology will continue to adapt to local prerequisites. It's a constant adaptation, like in any other business, and especially parcel logistics have to adjust fast because the unit cost is so pressing and the power of stop density is so strong that you don't have time. When a parcel company stands still for 2 or 3 consecutive days or does a bad job, it can be that they run insolvent, right? So this is also why we find several players running bankrupt and not making the game in the last couple of months and years. I just laid out some examples like Drop or like Budbee closing their business in Netherlands for home delivery. So that's really interesting to see and learn from this and perceive it as an, let's say, ecosystem where experiments happen and some fail and others learn, right? But also the pressure from legislators and administrators, especially in urban areas, are heavily pressing, right? Pedestrian areas that are limited to logistics companies to dedicated time. Like, where do you park? Dedicated delivery parking spots that are marked on the street, you know, but that are not ideal. So it's and definitely a condensed environment in urban environments. This is like a circumstance that doesn't make it easier for logistics companies, for sure. So let's get some insights from the front lines of urban logistics, our topic today, with 4 fantastic speakers. I'm really grateful that I can welcome today. No, that's too fast. Let's start with the first one. Gregory Perez. Gregory is an urban delivery project manager at bpost, the Belgian post. He has 16 years of experience with bike delivery, out of home, and generally urban logistics. He has a mission. He put himself on a mission to drive real change at bpost when it comes to urban delivery. And today with us, we will explore how, with him, how bpost is reshaping the urban delivery with so-called Ecozones. So that word made me really curious. Gregory today is connected from Belgium remotely. Please give Gregory a hand and say hi. There we see him. As second speaker, we'll have Inga Töller. She's Chief Growth Officer at Ono. And Ono, as you know, is one of the leading electric cargo bike suppliers. And today, she will take a deep dive into how to make cargo bikes a vital part of lively cities and human-centered transportation, and we're curious how parcel logistics fits in this picture. Please give Inga a hand. As third speaker today, we'll have Leitha Matz. She's a product owner on Bettermile's navigation app. She has a broad background in tech, founded 2 startups and building teams in fintech, data management, and media. And she has a fascination for bikes and bike rides. Just 2 weeks ago, she finished her Transalp with bike packing. So she has a deep interest, and she's also responsible for the bike mode in the Bettermile app. So Leitha, really curious to have you here and to hear your stories from how to make navigation feasible with logistics bikes. Welcome, Leitha. And last but not least, we'll have Dennis Kolmer. He's commercial lead for retail at Uber Direct. He works on the forefront of redefining local commerce. It's all about that, what he says, speed, convenience, and digital innovation. And today we'll hear from him about customer-centric delivery models, leveraging the Uber fleet. So welcome, Dennis. Really glad to have you here. So this will be our format, as always. After my introduction, I'll hand it over to the first speaker. We'll have roughly 10 to 15 minutes of speaking time, then a short Q&A. If you have any questions, please keep it. I'll go around here on site. You guys joining remotely, please hand in your questions all during the presentation in the chat field on LinkedIn or on YouTube. I'll receive it here on this tablet and read it out to the crowd. And then after the fourth speaker, we'll have a little panel discussion, 5 to 10 minutes, getting some common ground. And I'm really curious about that. Also, maybe creating some solutions together. Let's see. And then afterwards, we'll grab some beers and have our on-site networking. All right. So let's hit the road with Gregory Perez from bpost. Welcome, Gregory.
Thank you for having me, Simon. So I will be presenting the bpost Ecozones, but first of all, as you may or may not know, bpost is not only a postal carrier, but we are also an international group that provides solutions, a logistical solution for last mile fulfillment and customer care. So for big companies within our group are Radial, Stasi, Landmark Global, Dynalogic, and so on. So there's a lot of entities within the bpost group, and I will be focusing more on the Belgian part. Sustainability is now embedded into our organization and as part of our strategy. We want to achieve by 2030 in our scope 1 and 2 55% less emissions, and in our scope 4 and in scope 3, 14% less emission. And we employ in this organization and being a last mile organization around about 26,000 people. So to zoom into the city logistics, we launched our first pilots in 2021. It was not yet named Ecozone. It was more of looking for a solution into city delivery. And why did we do that? Because we were seeing some regulation frameworks being put in place, like the Green Deal, like the 15-minute cities that a lot of you already heard of, I suppose. And as Simon mentioned earlier, there's a lot of changes happening in mobility in cities. So in Belgium, for instance, we have low emission zones that potentially can become zero emission zones. We have school streets which have limited access hours, or during the morning when the children are arriving at school, those streets are blocked, and in the evening or late afternoon also. But when we have something that is popping up a lot in Belgium at this point is cycling streets. So cycling streets are streets where the bicycle has always priority on the vehicles, on the full width of the car. So it's not a bicycle lane, it's really the full street where the bicycle can drive. And then you have some cities developing new SOLPs, for those who know those terms, or urban logistic plans and urban mobility plans. Ghent being one of the big examples in Belgium, where you have a city core that we may not drive with a car into it unless we have a special license, and those are very limited, even for logistical players. So then you need to find ways in order to access that city center. So therefore, we launched the concept of an ecozone, and as you may see, you see a lot of pictures of things. You say, oh, what's really new about this? Well, what is new is the combination of all those solutions. It's using bike trailers or cargo bikes combined with e-vans, because, as Simon also mentioned earlier, you cannot combine or deliver every parcel, every type of parcel with a bike. So still you need vans, but the innovation is into finding the optimal way of combining those both mobility solutions in the same urban area. But then, in order to make that work, you also need to develop a solution, the micro hubs. The definition of a micro hub can be very variable. For us, a micro hub is a location within the city center where we can drop goods off and they can be picked up by a driver during his round. So it's not a starting point, it's not an end point, it's a passage point where our driver does his activities, and then it depends really on the city themselves. Not all cities are the same. And therefore, in some cities, you work in a flower model where you go reload. In other cities, it's one stop that you do that there per round on a given point on the round. So the model is very flexible towards the reality of the city. And then the last one, and not the least one, the two first ones were more driving our emissions, our way of working, our impact on the city. The last one is also driving our impact on the city, but is also in an in a more people that don't precisely think about it and just do their pickup of parcels. Therefore, we implemented a dense network. And what is a dense network? Is really implementing a network of lockers or pickup points in a 400-meter radius of everybody. So each and everyone has a locker at 400 meters of his house. It doesn't necessarily need to be a huge one, but one that's sufficiently big to provide a convenient solution. But what's innovative is the fact when you put it at 400 or 600 meters, a lot of studies around about mobility show that people just do their walking or cycling when it's round about that distance. When you go above those 400 to 600 meters, they switch to cars. So when implementing those Ecozones, we found out that, and we did a study ourselves. And in the cities where we had Ecozones implemented, we see that near to 40% of our customers were picking up their parcel by foot or by bike. Still, people use the car. Happy to see that they were combining, so they were picking up the children or doing some groceries. But yeah, you still have those that do dedicated trips with their car in those same zones. I think we hope at least that we can avoid them. But we are happy to see that it's only 15% that is still doing that. Based on the study we did in Mechelen a few years ago now. So if you go to the Ecozones, so I was talking about Mechelen, and we have two. Our first Ecozone was Mechelen, but we also developed it in Bruges. So to give you a sense of what we are doing, in Bruges, for example, there's 8 bike trailer rounds going through the city, supported by a micro hub. And then on the edge of the city, we have kind of a city hub. Those are the mail centers we have as a postal company. At the edge of the city, historical logistical locations. But they still need to be supported by a micro hub in order to make that solution work. Because we try also those smaller lockers to be delivered by those bike trailers. So we try to avoid or to find the best solution in order to answer our needs to do that last mile delivery. And on top of, we switched to electrical vans. So in Bruges, we have 83 of them, and a network of 50 pickup points, where 22 of them are lockers. The other ones are manned pickup points. When you look at Mechelen, not all cities are the same. And there we have 25 bike trailers implemented in that city core. Not only in the core, really, in the whole postal area. Also supported by a micro hub and 70 e-vans on top of, for those parcels that we cannot combine, or it's more efficient to do them by van because big volumes and so on. And there we have 70 pickup points that are located throughout the city in radiuses of 400 meters from each and every one, from their houses to their work location. And the results, we did a study through the VUB, which is the University of Brussels, and their department mobilized. And Ecozones is just more than only CO2 reduction, because it has so many other impacts on ecological and on social aspects of a city. For example, making that mix makes sure that we also decrease the infrastructure damage, because a car weighs, and that weight impacts also the cost of renovating the way, how to say, the tarmac of the way. Then you have also accident costs. There's all indirect costs that are generating because we are driving cars. But one of the biggest one is the congestion. When implementing those bike trailers or optimizing the way we work with bike trailers and vans, we see that we lessen by 22%. And the main reason is because you decrease the number of vans you're using to doing exactly the same work. And a big one we also see is the, hospitalization costs, because cities in an indirect throughout our taxes pay also a part of the bill for all those diseases that are generated by fine particles generated by the fine particles generated by the wheels of the car having some damage of the streets and so on. So the whole of it, we estimated, so the University of Brussels estimated that it was 38% less social and ecological pressure and costs on the city in general. So those are not P&L numbers for bpost as such, but it drives an end-to-end solution towards a better quality of life and quality of air within those cities where we are part of as a logistical player. And I'm mainly now focusing on those types of vehicles that we are switching to those bike trailers. But it's also those habits, as I mentioned earlier. When you have that dense network, it makes also sure that people go by bike or on foot, pick up their parcels. Because as you saw on a previous slide, a delivery that is missed at home generates 10% more CO2 than a delivery that is successful at home. So what do you want is to avoid that you need to go a second time around, or that you need to take your car to go pick up that parcel. So on top of that solution, we try to work together also on a local level with merchants to find answers to their problems also within that city core for their deliveries or their pickups, or even the general logistics of their shops, because square meters are very expensive in city centers, and potentially we can provide also a more ecological solution for them and optimizing their business at the end also. So it's a win-win. It's from a sustainability point of view, but also an economical point of view. So that's kind of the great thing about the Ecozones we tried to develop. and giving you a bigger picture of what we are achieving at the moment. So as I mentioned, in 2021, we started our first Ecozone in Mechelen. And now, at the end of 2024, we had 18. I can also announce that there's a 19th already, almost done. And Brussels, which normally should be done by the end of next month. So and not only Brussels city, but the full capital region of Brussels should be emission-free by the end of June, beginning of July. Emission-free, and has also that dense network of pickup points throughout the city. So that's our solution of the Ecozones and what we try to achieve from bpost.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks, Gregory. That was really insightful. I really like the concept of defining zones and then having these combinations of different routings and also providing flexibility to the consignee. So that's really interesting. Do we have any questions here from the crowd? Brian.
Hey there. Is this on? Great. All right. Hey there. I love the concept. It really seems like it's fantastic from multiple angles. The question that I had is about how you are figuring out the locations for, like, let's say that you've picked out the next Ecozone is going to be in City X. Within City X, how do you figure out locations for PUDOs and parcel lockers, as well as like which routes you're going to convert to the electrical cargo bikes, for example? What goes on in that planning there?
Well, there's city reality. So you have the city realities. Today, even cities are congested. So you don't have a lot of square meters that are free. So it's a mix of to try to have that private with private entities. So like a local shop that has a parking spots or at least 1 meter or 2 meters of parking spot that you can put available for us, and working with them together, but going also further into having those discussions with cities. For example, with the city of Mechelen and Leuven is another one. Yeah, we had those discussions with the city and looked together with them. Naturally, those are public spaces, so there you need to go through those regulations of use of public space. But it's a challenge. It's a big challenge of finding those locations. But once you find them, I would say that's the biggest challenge. And then organizing your rounds, you just organize based on volumes that you need to deliver. So that's not different to the way you are already working as a logistician, I would say.
So, Gregory, I have a question from a remote participant asking, what's the share of the volume that you can deliver through the Ecozones / urban destinations, non-urban destinations in Belgium?
I would say in Belgium it's quite specific, because Belgium is one, in Dutch we say it lintbebouwing. It's one big city, so the end of one city is the beginning of the other one. So there's not a lot of spaces in between, I would say, and therefore you really need to look at the whole picture. That's for Flanders and in Brussels, and in Wallonia, as from one point it becomes less than, because you're getting into the RDs. But really, a limit in that depends on the density of population living on given areas.
So, or maybe framed a little differently. When would you? What's will in a couple of years all Belgium be separate in ecozones, and you will have this as a major delivery model, or what's with the intended share of it?
Today, the focus was on the cities, on the ecozones, but our goal is literally to go emission-free throughout the whole country by 2030, and to implement, to double the size of our pickup solutions throughout the country. So today we already have the densest network, and we want to double that. So to make in perspective is saying nearly all cities will become ecozones in Belgium.
Cool. Any further question here from on-site? No, I would have additional one, and which is about the micro hubs. In the end, we talk about last mile delivery, but we all know it's not only the last mile, right? So you have to adjust your network respectively, because any micro hub also adds another point for sorting and for dispatching. So it's adding additional cost. And we're in a high volume, low margin business, so we should avoid any resorting, right? How do you tackle that challenge?
There's no resorting at our micro hubs. that's just the thing. You sort everything at your point of departure, and it's really, you just reload. There's no extra sorting. There's no extra manipulation. Change of assignment. No, it's really the guy that sorts at the start, so which loads the first time his bike. He already does the sorting at that point of the bag or the roll container that he will be implementing later on in his round. So he perfectly knows what he's gonna load into his bike at that micro hub.
So and that's just taken over a bag that is already pre-sorted, and that was in the outbound depot already sorted to this specific destination.
Yes, indeed. Okay. And which is part of on a given part of his round.
So that's the beauty when you're a market leader and have a high stop density, right?
Indeed.
Okay, nice. All right, thanks, Gregory. Thanks a lot for this insights, and we'll have Inga next up on stage.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. The presentation. This is not mine. I can just do it, maybe. This one. Okay. So I'm going to talk about how cargo bikes become a vital part of urban logistics. I'm Inga from Ono. And yeah, we are a cargo bike manufacturer. We are based here in Berlin. And are now for 2 million kilometers in the field. And talking about that, is mainly to understand how we started, because we started at Ono with a human-centered design of the cities, and to think about how would we like to live in a city. And if I imagine a city where I would like to live in, it would be green, it would be quiet, and it would be a safe place, right? So, and I'm looking forward to see those images of a green city. This is in Barcelona. I went there in 2022. I was already in the cargo bike business, and I was just like, I'm still stuck with this image. This is something that I took in Berlin. And so it is more that situation, and it doesn't have anything of the green, it doesn't have anything of the silent, it doesn't have anything of the safe situations on passing streets. So yeah, and this is how we started at Ono, and this is how we, our reason how we, why we exist. But talking about traffic is about money and annoyment, I would say. And traffic does mean how much time we spend in it and how much money as in logistics we would be losing. And talking about Germany, last year It was Düsseldorf was the main city in hours lost in traffic with 60 hours, 58 in Berlin and Stuttgart, and 55 in Munich. Talking about the international perspective, it is 105 in Istanbul, 101 in Chicago and New York, and I think 101 in London. So I would say in Germany we generally are not stuck in traffic if we see the global perspective on that. But still, we see increasing costs in traffic. We see it in energy, we see it in parking, in city tolls. Like everything is added on the last mile delivery, on that, and on our traffic costs. And it's not only that. We see, talking about the challenges in parcel delivery, we still see the growth in parcel delivery and e-commerce, increased traffic, and we see that this leads to the consequences we see on the streets in second and third row, parking, risk for all road users, stress for the drivers, and pollution. And this is a problem not only for the logistics, but also for the municipalities that took action and said, like, okay, we want to change those cities. And here are some actions that were taken to transform cities from part of the municipalities that we in logistics are also facing, and that are leading to new challenges. So in Hamburg, it is a continuous expansion of the residence parking area, so areas where we cannot really pass through. In Cologne, we are having a heavily building of cycling infrastructure. So this is like mainly also what Gregory said about Brussels, that it is really a main point. And in Perez, we know that they did polls like against SUVs in the city, but also like a lot of things like to build more cycling infrastructure. I think, I don't know who in this room has been visiting Perez in the last years. I mean, the change is amazing. It is really very different. And and we see the challenges in traffic. We see municipalities working on maybe making it more difficult to deliver on last mile, and maybe also getting costs higher. And we also see that we are faced with demographic changes, like we have less people in the future that are part of the labor market, and maybe more people that need to be activated. And at least in Germany, it is really, really expensive to do a driving license. And so for us, the question was then, bikes are the urban logistics solution. And we say, yes, for sure. This is our bike. And the other bike aside, sorry, there's a lap in that. So we built this cargo bike. We started in 2016 to build that, talking with logistics people, like what would you need if you would like to use a cargo bike instead of a van. It was just like it needs weather protection and so on. It doesn't need it couldn't be very difficult to start the vehicle. It needs to have a load of at least 200 kilograms. If not, we cannot handle that, a volume of 2 square meters, and so on. So we designed the vehicle that it should be easy to handle on last mile delivery. And still, we know it is not easy like that, or is it easy like that? And for sure it is not. We cannot just replace one van with one cargo bike, right? Like we all tried it maybe in our operations, and it wasn't that easy. And I will not lie on that. I don't think I need to explain to you what's the conventional distribution in the logistics process. This one is from Agiplan. They did like an introduction, what would need to be changed if we change to cargo bikes in the logistics. And you see, like, if I go one step back, we see easily that it is a lot of more steps that need to be done, or that could be done if we want to do a first mile and a last mile delivery with cargo bikes. But if we just go on the last mile part, we talked already about the micro hub. This is necessary if we want to go, if we want to handle cargo bikes in the cities, because we will not go from the outer distribution centers to the city with cargo bikes. It doesn't make any sense. It's not, doesn't make sense for time, for range of the cargo bikes, and for the distribution concept. So if we want to use cargo bikes on last mile, we will need the micro hubs in it. And potentially it can be used like for everything that is beside parcel, also for food, for grocery delivery. We have it for laundry services and so on, that everything that is in the city, like also services that are being done, maintenance and so on, customer journeys. This can be done with a cargo bike in a very efficient way when stop density is given, right? It just doesn't make sense when we just travel like 30 kilometers into that direction and then the next stop is over there in 20 kilometers. But so we have vehicles like ours, but also like from other manufacturers, and we need the micro hubs to be able to deliver. And still we know last mile is very cost intensive, and we do have the cost intensity on last mile, and we add here micro hubs. So we have an additional cost, TCOs are rising, like if we just take it through. And we also have structure of packages and parcels that are not fitting even in 2 square meters. It's not working. So it's not easy like that just to have one cargo bike. But the impact that could be there, if we would use, a mixed fleet of e-vans and cargo bikes, is impressive. So I will now show you some data out of an InnoEnergy study that has been conducted in 2023. Last year it has been published. And it will show you that reducing the costs of a mixed fleet, when in e-van the cost per parcel are with 146 per parcel in the delivery, and if we have a fleet mix of 60% cargo bikes on last mile and 40% of e-vans, this can be reduced to 136. So mixing this up, like in the study, what is very interesting is that they are comparing cities with a very high density of population, with a low density of population, and like with this whole different city structures that are existing in Europe and also worldwide. And this is very interesting because they said depending on the population density and the stop density that is the city's architecture, maybe 80 to 20% is the best solution, or 60 to 40% is the best solution. And they give examples for the cities where which solution would be best fitting. So it can also be read in that study, like what would be your potential cost per parcel in that city. So in an 80 to 20% mix of e-bikes and e-vans, with a sending volume of 2 billion packages yearly, we would be into 2023, this was when it was conducted, the savings would be in 156 million euros, and with a rising parcel volume into 2030, it would be 545 million. So I think this is very impressive, and it is very good to see like what a potential and saving a few cents on each parcel could be as a solution. And it is also not only seeing the impact on the cost per parcel, but also in our environment. If we see the SDGs and the impact it has on that, on the industry and infrastructure to build resilient infrastructure. The other one is to include and to make cities safe and inclusive. And then the other hand, the next one, to ensure sustainable consumption and climate action, I think is also one of the main things, like how we started and why we started. And I think this is quite interesting. And other things that are conducted currently in Germany or that were from the past years, I think this one for the mid-mile delivery is also a very interesting project that was conducted in Frankfurt with Amazon and with the local Frankfurter Verkehrsgesellschaft, the local public transport. And so they brought the mid-mile, they did it via tram, and then they put the parcels into the cargo bikes. By this, they didn't need micro hubs, because we all know that it is very difficult to get a micro hub area inside of the cities. And a different and very interesting perspective on that is also in an exposition at SAP in Munich, where they also calculated, like from the whole automated logistics perspective, parcels can go to the cities and how this can be arranged. It's very, like if you're in Munich, it's very, very interesting to take a look at the exhibition and to experience that. Yeah. So if you have any question or if you want to see the owner, I didn't bring one today because I was not able to do so. We've got a showroom here in Berlin. So anyone who would like to see the owner, just scan and and contact me. I will, we can do an appointment. Good.
Thanks, Inga. Really nice insights. Any questions here from the room for Inga about Ono? And yes, would you take the microphone?
Hello, thank you very much for the presentation. I have a question. What are the other concerns from logistic companies when introducing the cargo bikes into their fleets? Because as you said, there have been some studies that show that it can be more cost effective, but what are the other concerns? Maintenance, or more how to organize it, how to introduce the cargo bikes?
Yeah, I think there are different perspectives. Like first is like to get a micro hub. It's not that easy, and even in the mostly the populated areas, it is the city centers, and it is very high intensive costs like to get a micro depot in that area. The other one is like how high are maintenance really? Like what is not what the marketing is saying, but it's like how can I do my operations and make sure, for example, if I say like you shouldn't bring more than 200 kilograms in it, like to make sure not 300 or 400 are loaded into that, because this like is very difficult, because delivery guys do have a lot and a very high pressure, and there needs to be an understanding that it is okay like to load, get back to the hub. What we experience most is, or have experienced in the beginning mostly, was that there were a lot of companies trying like to get most, or not the companies, but the delivery guys like get everything in it and not to need to turn back to the hub. And so it was very highly loaded. And this then also is like, when it is loaded too high, it's what happens to every bikes, then something breaks. So like, and I would say like the real TCO, like, and to make sure that a cargo bike is really introduced or accepted as a real part of a fleet, this needs to be made sure. Like that you see like how much air is in it, and not like, okay, we've got the cars and the fleet manager is taking care of the cars, but not of the bikes. Or like the bikes, they should be rolling, I can't take that. And it's not like that. So you need to really take care of the bikes as well as you do it the same way as for the vans.
Thank you. Any other questions here from the room? Any questions? Yes, please. Hang on a second. Hugo.
Thanks so much, Versa. So I have one question regarding to these e-bikes. So
Yeah.
do they have own GPS to deliver these parcels, or they just use Google Maps or other applications?
Well, the GPS inside of the vehicle is mainly like for tracking for leasing companies and so on, right? So that is a requirement that it can be found. In our vehicles, like if you want to do a GPS, you can, there's a smartphone holder in the front and also a USB charger. So you can, most of the delivery guys are doing a usual routing with Google Maps, I would say, or with any other routing. And some do have bike routing, but not so many. And it's a lot about experience of the people within cycling infrastructure, I would say. The GPS module inside of our vehicles is being used for maintenance reasons and so on. Mm-hmm. It can be deactivated for those who are wondering if it can be deactivated. It can be deactivated. And if you've got further question on what is then restrictions on that, because I know that it is also an issue like what can be tracked, what cannot be tracked, it can be adapted to the needs of the customer.
Okay, that's almost a perfect connect to Latha, who's actually providing the bike navigation system. So thanks, Inga.
Thank you.
Welcome on the stage, Latha. I have some questions still left, Inga, but I'll keep it for the panel. Yes. And really interested in the cost aspect of things. Okay, Latha.
Great. Yeah, well, and thank you for that question. Like, how does the navigation happen? One could use Google Maps, but let's look at other options. So today, I really want to talk about the Bettermile bike navigation, because that's what our team focuses on. And I want to talk about how we're doing that interaction with bicycles. So, we're forwarding into the future at high speed. So we'll just cover the mission around how we wanted to do bike navigation, the execution of it, the challenges, and a couple of takeaways at the end, because who doesn't want to take home something good? The mission that we had was to bring delivery drivers safe and high quality bike navigation in the Bettermile app. And the reason that the Bettermile app is better, actually, than something like Google is because when you do something like Google, you're going one point to one point, right? If you're doing something like a delivery route the way our drivers do it, there could be about 120 different points that they're going to. So for that, you need something much more complex. Yep. Oh, here we go. It is very touchy. There we go. Okay. Backing up, here we go. So the problem that we were trying to address was that more than 25,000 drivers every month use the Bettermile navigation app to plan their route and to deliver or pick up an average of 120 packages per driver per workday. And the navigation we provide has historically been optimized for vans. And as you saw in the previous two talks, the world is optimized for vans. And we need to change that, right? The way that we change that needs to lead through the tools so that we can actually get to adoption. So until now, we haven't had really bike focus. Now, there is a lot to its credit, and we saw that in the last talk as well. Like when you are thinking about clean streets, when you're thinking about breathable air, you know, imagine the things that you want for your children. The things that you want for your children are going to come from emission-free travel, right? So for the consignee, the person who gets the package, they appreciate the convenience of the solution and the fact that it doesn't emit exhaust fumes or noise. And I would say also, yeah, the dust, the particles, the nasty stuff, right? For the environment, using just this one bike for regular service of shipments saved about 15 tons of CO2 emissions. Now, I'm taking these quotes actually from a couple of really interesting bike articles. So if you loop back to this later, you can see more about the lived experience of some of these drivers with bikes. So this is due to the fact that the delivery of each parcel is an average of 1.3 kilograms of CO2, half of which falls to that last mile. This last mile, the better mile that we talk about, or the last meter ultimately. And for the courier, they've found that we're even more effective than with a large vehicle because we can choose completely different routes. We don't have to stress about finding parking, and we don't get stuck in traffic. And for the business, we noticed that we're attracting many new employees, especially in Leipzig. So this was really focused on Leipzig, because people are becoming aware that they have a better ecological footprint with e-cargo bikes. And actually, this article also talked about the positive reception that they get out on the streets. Like, people see them with the bikes and they smile and wave. This is much less common if you're in a van. The e-bike is loved because the e-bike represents something really good for the community. There we go. So for the execution of, whoa, going crazy here. For the execution of how we did this, I'll back up. Okay, here we go. Yes, just gotta wait for it. The package data actually comes from GLS for us. So that comes through our connector. And then we have a partnership with Grasshopper. And Grasshopper is working with us on the sequence. Now, the sequence is a little bit different for bikes, right? And so that was something that they were really excited to collaborate with us on. Of course, we have our partners from here. They are over here, and you can talk to them afterward. So here is our mapping partner. And when you bring together, the package information, the sequence information, and then the mapping information, then you get to what we do, which is the navigation display. And that's where all the magic comes together for the driver. Let's see if I can do this without advancing it too fast. All right. So the optimal sequence that we get, it's really optimized for the bike. It's not for the van. And the navigation preferentially chooses the available bike-ready paths to offer efficient navigation, which, that's what we're looking for. That's winning, right? And so in the example that you see here, the bike is actually able to go through the Tiergarten. The van is not going to go on those paths because those paths are really ready for bikes. They're ready for couriers on foot, but they are not ready for your van. There we go. The new bike icon was one of the key things that we wanted in the app to really show the courier that, yes, you are in the correct navigation mode. And we made vehicle specificity very easy by doing that based on vehicle identification. The bike-specific support was the routes, of course, and sequences that they get in the app, and we also adjusted those delivery times because bikes can go at a different rate from vans, especially quickly in some of the urban areas, and then, of course, slower across long distances. All right, so victory. We have the bike, we have the happy recipient, and it's a big win. But when we look back at that win, that's the functional win, right? Like, we've put everything in place to make something successful. Have we really made it successful, though? Like, look back at our mission. Our mission was safe and high quality. But safe and high quality is not what you're going to find in the technology. Safe and high quality is in the eye of the beholder, right? It's in your mind. And how do we understand? Does it really feel correct to the driver? Does it really feel safe to the driver, right? And I'm talking about the driver of the bike. How do we know that? Well, one of the ways that we know that is because we need to gather people's perceptions about the navigation. And I often use quotes from other people. This is a quote from me. My quote is that good navigation often isn't a fact, it's a perception. And so that's one of the things I want to drive home today. The solution that we had was, gosh, we have a big crew of people here, many of which are over here who bicycled on our behalf. We are eating our own dog food, as they say. We are bicycling our own routes. So you can see Marie, you can see David, there's me. I just crossed the Alps, I love bicycling. A lot of our coworkers here love bicycling, and we dog fooded this with ourselves. We did the Bikorama program, during which we covered over 10,000 kilometers. We shot a bunch of photos of our lived experiences, right? We filled out a bunch of feedback reports, very detailed, very honest. I'll show you some of the verbatims there. And we discovered a couple of bugs and some navigation issues. We also awarded about 3 winners. One of them is right there. Thank you. And we recorded the feedback, right? Like the feedback was, oh, my ride from Sunday evening from Alt-Treptow to Bergman-Kietz was perfect. Love that. But then again, the morning ride was terrible, and then details on why. One of the things that's really important to know is that the experience that I had, for example, where the bike navigation was routing me through parks, was 100% positive. Marie, on the other hand, don't mean to call you out, but like Marie, on the other hand, was routed through Görlitz and did not necessarily feel comfortable being routed through Görlitz Park. It's a little bit sketchy. I mean, on a map, it just looks like a park. But in reality, it looks like, maybe not a place that you want to be alone on a bike, right? And so, again, this is an example of everything can look perfect from a technical standpoint, but from a perception standpoint, maybe not. So here are some of the photos that we enjoyed. We enjoyed seeing lived experiences out in the path, and then ultimately we launched the product. And because we did all of this testing with our internal teams, because we got all of those perceptions, all of those opinions, we fixed the bugs that we needed to fix, we made a few quality adjustments with here. The thing is, we were able to not only launch the product, but launch it with a lot more confidence. And so the takeaways that I want to give you, that I promised at the beginning, are not only is emission-free delivery kind of a blah, blah, blah kind of promise. No, it's, we saw in the first 2 talks that it's actually happening. These things are creating real change. It's creating change in Belgium in the air quality there. It's creating change across GLS, for example, where they said that, currently 650 electric vehicles are already in daily use for GLS, and that's more than 10% of the fleet. And by the end of the current fiscal year, that's over 900. They are going for more sustainable, and that is like emission-free vans, but in combination with bikes, because you can't just have a one-size-fits-all solution, as we've seen in the last 2 talks as well. So good navigation, of course, will always be in the eye of the beholder. And then, the last thing to realize is that you create a product with technology, but you create a really good product with passion, right? And that is one of the things that I think you see with a product that is based on something that feels really good for everybody who's involved in the process. So thank you to all of the testers who brought your passion to this product and this project, and we are really happy to bring something that is not only quality, but that we feel confident in the quality around it. So thank you very much, and happy to answer questions.
Thanks, Letha. Thanks, Letha. Any questions here from on site? Yeah, let's start here.
Hi, thanks for the presentation, and yeah, congratulations for the launch. Are these feedbacks from, like you said, this is it's a perception. Yes. Are these perceptions still being taken, or the feedbacks, are they being taken from the real users?
Yeah. Actually, this is something that Bettermile, I'm really happy to report. I not that I have to say it, but like I do really feel proud of the fact that we have an entire group that is dedicated to customer voice. And that's our user insights and support team. And so we're working with them on a constant basis to hear the voices of drivers out in the field. And in fact, I think pretty much everybody who works here is going out to the depots on a regular basis. So there's a couple of different paths to that. There's one that is more like the qualitative information that we get from those interviews, with drivers in the depots on the streets, and then there's also the quantitative data that we're gathering on the back end to really improve things based on what we can see, and yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you have another question here?
Yeah, hi, thanks for the presentation, very nice. I applaud your approach to dog fooding. It's always amazing. I just want to understand a little bit better, how did you do this in your environment? Because I mean, when someone drives to the office from work, it's obviously something very, very different from driving a parcel route with 100 stops. So did you just focus on getting the navigation for individual segments right, or did you do more in order to kind of mimic the real world tasks?
Well, and that's a really good question. And part of it was how we set up the program and the incentives. So one of the things we did was to say, like, one of the criteria for winning, if you're going to be participating, is geographic reach. So how far have you gotten around the city, just to kind of get that geographic range. Another part of it was total kilometers, driven, because the more that you see, the more that you can experience. So our app is actually set up to, you can add as many waypoints as you want. And so our test drivers could also do that. So like we were encouraging folks to be like, okay, on Saturday, I'm gonna go to the library, I'm gonna go pick up my groceries, I'm gonna stop by, and pick up the package that I need to pick up at the station over here, and I'm gonna go to the farmer's market, and then I'm gonna loop around and go back home after the whole thing. And so it's not, the 120 waypoints that a driver is going to do on a regular basis, but it is giving you that feeling for speed. And that's one of the things we needed to adjust, actually, is what is the speed that an urban cyclist can go? And then secondarily, what are the paths through, for example, whether it was parks or on streets that have a bike lane. The one thing that we found was that some streets will say they have a bike lane, and it'll look like they have a bike lane in the mapping, but what is the quality feel of that bike lane? Is it just a paint bike lane, or is it actually a protected bike lane? That's a different feel. So the more kilometers we did and the more waypoints our users had, the more that we got confidence about the quality of those streets. I hope that answers your question.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I'll take a remote question. Yep. Remote participant asking how intuitive is the new app for couriers, and may do actual bike riders differentiate from classic van drivers? Yeah, so I think, as far as our Bettermile navigation app, we are constantly thinking about the user experience, the experience of a person who is using this app every day. We get a lot of feedback from our drivers who will tell us, exactly what they hate about it and what they love, and the experience. For cyclists in particular, they're still a much smaller segment of our population, so I'm not getting as much feedback as I would like to get, but as that segment grows, I think we're going to get more, bicycle-specific feedback that we can use to really understand their lived experiences as well. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Another question here from on-site? Yes.
Thanks. Yeah, very, very interesting. I mean, you mentioned that obviously the data quality in navigation is made for vans.
Yeah.
And you collected now like a manual sample in Berlin of improved data.
Yep.
Are you building something to collect that out in the field, like automatically or with manual driver feedback? I mean, I guess like using the sensors in the device could already help a little bit, but
yeah. So actually, there's kind of two answers here. One of them would be, I mean, that's kind of what here does. You know, like they're definitely collecting data constantly to improve routing and to improve the map experience. But the other part that I would say we are really interested in collecting data on is the last meter experience, and that is something that we do both for bikes and for vans. So we can identify where drivers have previously parked or where drivers have previously, actually delivered a package. And so given the data that we have on that, we can put some icons into the navigation that say, okay, this is probably where the entrance point in this building is. Because as you know, if you've ever delivered something to a monumental complex like this one, it can be really confusing. Where is the entrance? And they can spend a lot of time and waste a lot of time looking for that entrance. So I think our last meter information is a really good example of using that data to cut down on the time that's used for those deliveries and to make them more efficient.
I would take one more question here from on-site, if any. No. Yes, Stefan.
Hi, I'm Stefan. So I have worked for here a while ago and also for Bettermile. So I'm exactly the question.
Good experience on both sides.
100% sure. So you're feeding here maps with the bike data from the navigation.
Well, I mean,
routing.
I wouldn't say we're feeding it to them. I would say they're aware of the navigation that our drivers are doing because they are our map provider, right? Like so the thing that I think is especially relevant is that. You have to be careful with data collection. Obviously, you have to make sure that everybody is on board with the collection, how it's being done, and then the benefits they're getting from it. So I think in the case of the data that we're collecting, there's really clear benefits. But it's I would say that of course there's a great opportunity there, but then you always got to be careful. Mm-hmm. Yep.
It is all consent-based,
yes.
Of course.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yep. Yep.
All right. Please give a hand to Latham. Thanks for the presentation. And up next, Dennis, we're really curious to see your perspective from Uber Direct.
Thank you so much. Let's see if this works now. Amazing. So thank you so much for having me. My name is Dennis. I'm from Uber Direct, or from Uber in general. And so far, we talked a lot about like the delivery itself. And I think it's super important to talk about ways how this bit can become better and become more sustainable and become like more, fueling our future. And what I now want to bring is a perspective how at the end, someone will send this delivery. Will be a retailer who is selling a product that needs to be delivered. And there will also be a customer who receives the product, or a company who receives the product. And at the end, we believe that local commerce or quick delivery in general can be a game changer for both of those parties. And of course, then the delivery in the middle bit. So what I want to do with you today are three things. First, give you a quick introduction of what we do at Uber when it comes to like urban delivery or local commerce, how we call it. And then go right into the detail of what are the challenges of the retailers that we think can be solved by enabling more local commerce. And then I also brought a case study with one of our partners from MediaMarkt Saturn to explain what actual impact having like urban delivery and local commerce can have for those partners. So let's jump right into it. I think, okay, we did already a little bit of introduction. So hi again, my name is Dennis, and I'm responsible to working with our partners, especially in the retail and logistics space, and implementing solutions from Uber. So I think Uber is probably named to most of you, if not all. Some of you might have used Uber to come to the location. Some of you at home might just got some food from Uber Eats, but that's not all what we do. So overall, our vision is go anywhere and get anything, especially like deliveries. We are now quite heavily in the get anything bit. And this also enables like not only like the delivery itself on the marketplace, but we want to look at it a little bit more holistic and especially focus on local retailers and help them to actually get their products anywhere and get help our customers to at any location and have the best possible experience to get those services and products. So, and we already executing on this vision. I don't want to do too much into flexing, but we do it at a large scale. Now, Uber Eats is now live for 5 years in Berlin. We are overall in 10K cities and try to enable this vision also with our European partners, for example, in the UK and France and Spain. And because we think, we are convinced that at the end, there's the advantages of delivery, they work best when they work at scale. I think you probably are more experts in the delivery bit itself, so you know that having scale is super important from a cost perspective, from a customer experience perspective, that you can always bring the best of your service and the best of your batching and so on. And but now having talked, I think, yeah. Was sure that is also going to happen at some point. So, I think it's no surprise to you that the challenges, if you look at retail, are cost-driven. I think it's in all the aspects. Costs increased by a lot in the last couple of years, and this puts a lot of pressure on the retailers because on the one hand, like cost for everything that they do, for delivery, for the product itself, for staff, is increasing tremendously, and this effect gets even intensified by the cost transparency and by the price sensitivity customers are facing. Because I mean, it's super easy just to compare product prices online, choose the cheapest option, which might come from an online pure player. And this is a big problem for especially local players who might have their own store operations and cannot compete with the lowest possible costs. And at the same time, there's also and at the same time, there's also a lot of competition rising, especially if you look at our local commerce. They get a lot of pressure from international huge companies. We don't need to name them now, but there are a lot. I mean, and they are giant, and they put a lot of pressure. They're also great. They have a really great customer experience, and also they have to scale in their giant warehouses to offer the best possible efficiencies, the best possible batching. However, we are convinced that especially local players, they have a decisive advantage, which is their closeness to the customers. So at the end, they have the stores, they have the direct customer connection, they have maybe the loyalty apps in their phones. And we are convinced that we can, with local commerce, we can put this closeness to the customers into a really good advantage and even a USP that might be really hard to replicate by the online pure players. And I come to more about a moment why we call it local commerce and not, for example, like e-commerce, because and then what we think local commerce is all those different levels that enable local retailers to gain an advantage over normal e-commerce. So on the one hand, of course, like the big players, they have huge customer reach. They have their platforms, and I think we are convinced that to compete with it, local retailers should pull every lever that they have to increase their customer base. They might already have like a real loyal customers coming to their stores. They might already have people using their own apps. And we think that, for example, marketplaces like Uber Eats as a marketplace for all different products could enable customers to already find local commerce. So, I mean, for myself, I'm living here in Berlin, and I'm not aware of all the different local players. However, I might quite recently, all the time, use the Uber Eats app. And so by then having a presence in this marketplace, even like prominent local players might have the advantage of getting the attention of the millions of users in the existing customer base of different marketplaces. But I think especially maybe in some cases even more important is strengthening your own channels. Because, I mean, there should always be the reason. Why should I use the individual own channel, for example, the website of a local company, like of a drugstore or of a consumer electronics place, when I can just go to a super huge online marketplace like that's delivering internationally? And here the idea is those own channels need to get a real USP. And we think having, like, for example, instant same-day delivery, even sometimes within minutes, sometimes within hours, or just in the same day, can be an advantage that is super hard to replicate for online pure players that are always delivering from the warehouses. Because, I mean, I think we already saw a slide earlier today of the typical, like, the delivery process. There are a couple of steps involved. There are a couple of sorting and micro hubs or just in the normal warehouses involved. And I think by shipping from own channels, we hope to avoid this as much as possible, be cost efficient, but also offering a USP that is valued by the customers. And the last bit, I mean, it's all about visibility. And I think it's also no news that in marketing, being super targeted and not being part of the overall flood of information is important. And I think here also we want to support our partners by finding the right local audience, but also then by being quite locally aware and offering the right information at the right time and the right ads at the right time. Just being there when customers actually are happy to receive, for example, a product offering in an app, and then be just there and be local. And so, all in all together, I think the one condensed point here that we want to see is, at the end, it comes to increasing the customer experience, finding different levers that are connecting what the retailers need to what the customers want. And now, yes, and if you look at some customer research, we saw that data is actually supporting those claims. That the quick delivery as one aspect of a great customer experience is really important. If you look just at the very left side here, and this is trying to imitate a customer journey across the channels, I think the very left says at the end, more than 1/3 of all customers have aborted an online purchasing process because no express or instant delivery option was enabled. So they just choose a competition at the end because their delivery was not quick enough. And if you then go to all the other side, at the very end of the customer process, customer journey, when it comes to retention and recommendation, we see that having an actual good delivery experience, not just, okay, the parcel delivery was somewhat in time and I did not stay at home for maybe 2 days to wait for a parcel or go to a parcel shop and wait 1 hour line, but actually have a good customer experience of maybe the delivery window was 15 minutes. I was there, I needed a product because I had to go to an important event and someone was missing and it was there when I needed it. This actually helps creating a wow effect, and then more than 92% of customers actually actively recommended a retailer to someone if this customer experience was overall positive. So now I think enough about the overall the basics. Now let's go into practice and look at how MediaMarktSaturn actually uses the overall increase of their e-commerce presence, of their e-commerce traffic, actually as an advantage for their stores. So what did we do with MediaMarktSaturn? You saw that framework earlier of the 3 different aspects of local commerce. We really focused on 2 of them with MediaMarktSaturn. First, already since March 2024, we started a pilot with them to have instant delivery in 90 minutes directly from the stores to the customers enabled via the MediaMarkt app. So how can you imagine it? You go to the MediaMarkt app, there might be a couple of delivery options. Some might be pick up in store, there might normal delivery within a couple of working days. There might be express delivery in the next working day. And now we are part of that with instant delivery within 90 minutes. And this is the first aspect. So, and the advantage is it's actually directly coming from the stores. And just to tell a couple of products, because what we hear a lot when we talk about it is, of course, this might be those products, my charger broke and I now need it, or I lost my headphones, but I have a flight and now I need it. But those are not the only products that are sold via this. We also see a lot of products with high emotional value being sold via instant delivery. For example, people who buy a new Dyson like hair curler or even just a vacuum, and they buy it because it's not a purchase that you make every day. It's a probably investment, and you are excited to get that product, and then you might actually be extra happy if you get it a little bit quicker than with normal delivery. And the second bit was getting like the best possible user base, and actually also enabling for local players or local commerce our Uber Eats marketplace. I'm super happy here also to say that coming quite soon, we'll also have the MediaMarktSaturn as part of our retailer group within the Uber Eats app, and so then also making like this additional customer base accessible for our partners. And so it's only a case study if you also can present some good results, right? Because we can do it at the end. Anyone is unhappy. I think we had this discussion. Yeah, it was pretty much the same in the earlier talks. So I think I'm super happy also to see that on the one hand there's a commercial impact, because at the end, any retailer, any partner needs to make money, and we saw a 10% increase in their basket value when customers used like the 90-minute delivery with Uber Direct. And at the same time, and this is if you look back at the like recommendation to additional users, this is what I'm especially proud of, that actually the NPS of the delivery bit is at 70, which is 50% higher than all the other delivery methods that were currently offered via our partner. So I think this is great results, but I also did a little bit more digging to explain how was this enabled. And I think there are two key factors which can be summarized in: we need to fulfill our promise. If we promise quick delivery, it can be slow, and especially with high-value products, it needs to be reliable. And I think the first bit is, yes, we were on time. We said 90 minutes. We were usually less than 1 hour, which is good. And also our like 95% of all deliveries were within our promised delivery window. And I think the last number is, again, a number that we are quite proud of, because we are delivering, MacBooks, iPhones, Dyson fans, like really high-value electronics. And so we're super proud to say that only 0.03% of all deliveries were either lost or stolen, which are usually then more caused by like a bike actually having an accident and a product being broken rather than the product being stolen. So, and then we came back to our partners at MediaMarktSaturn and said, okay, what is actually important? What do the retailers need to enable first to do local commerce, to make the most out of their closeness to the customers? And I think there are two key factors. The one thing is, of course, they need stores, right? If they don't have stores, then it becomes complex quite quickly. Either you need to set up like micro-fulfillment centers, which can also be part of the stores, and we talked about earlier how difficult it can be, especially in urban areas, to find spaces, or having collaborations with maybe some other partners that can then provide the stores, because at some point you need to have the space to send the delivery from. And the second bit is just the omnichannel setup. I think why omnichannel? Because on the one hand, I think online is where most of the traffic is generated right now, and also will be likely generated in the future. But also omnichannel means there is already a logical connection between the physical world in the stores and the online world. And if this connection, for example, knowledge about stock levels, or maybe like the workers in the stores having some form of understanding of what's happening online, which are the fastest moving products, is quite important to not being necessary to set it up all later when we do a project together, but already have a solid foundation to then do local commerce. So, just super quickly, I now want to go into what that means, because I think also, especially in this audience, I think we have a lot of people that have a really good understanding of how our delivery process goes. And here, the TLDR essentially is we want to integrate seamlessly in existing processes, because at the end, any form of additional service that requires like a fundamental change of the processes, either with the delivery services or with our partners, might cause some resistance. And so what we did here is we used the existing click and collect process, and just instead of a customer picking up the product, it was one of our couriers who was picking up the product from the stores and then delivering it to the customers. So at the beginning, the customer just places the order, selects our delivery option as their preferred model, and then our backend, our algorithm start working to find the right couriers, to find the right, okay, maybe for this it's a larger package, so we need a car, or it's maybe a further distance, so also a car might be still the option. Or again, we talked about, especially in urban areas, it might be like a really dense area, and then our the bikes might be the preferred delivery solution. So at the very same time, in the store, someone from the store staff is picking the order, sorting it, you could say, already like in delivery bags. Then that means when the delivery is picked up by one of our couriers, more or less, it's a really quick transaction, which is not creating too much additional friction in the stores. And then like our magic, quote unquote, happens. And if we look at this, we see ourselves as a technology company. That means That means what we want to do here essentially is to use all of the existing technology to make sure the delivery is delivered reliably. So we do live tracking. That means the customer can already see, okay, the courier is at home maybe in 5 minutes, so it can already go to the defined location to make sure there is no misdelivery. At the same time, we do a lot of like PIN or personal identification to make sure the right delivery is actually, or the iPhone is actually delivered at the end to the right customer and not to the neighbor. So, what are the key takeaways? I think we already mentioned a couple, but I just want to quickly summarize this. Okay, which is, on the one hand, if we mentioned, it is about leveraging the in-store network and the online presence, like a mix of online channel and store presence. Then, in order to not cause too much friction and integration into existing processes is key, rather than forcing our customers to create new ones, to adopt to local commerce. And then, as a result, we're adopting to the expectation of customers, so actually offering the quick delivery if they want it, but also creating like a good delivery experience, because we see this is actually something that customers prefer, and customers are even willing to pay extra for. And in return, this has a commercial aspect. This has actually like a measurable impact in the stores, and so the in-store revenue, which is actually part of the local commerce, is increased. And there is, of course, also a silver lining in terms of sustainability, because instead of either via click and collect forcing a person to take their car, go to the store and then drive back, or maybe having like a more inefficient delivery, we can ensure that actually the deliveries can happen via our own fleet, and then we have the control either by enabling more and more electric vehicles, or actually relying on our like the 50% approximately in Germany, which is a bike fleet, which then is, of course, like at least for the delivery aspect, carbon efficient. So this is it from my side. I'm super happy to take your questions. And yeah, thanks again for having us.
Thanks, Dennis. Any questions here from on site for Dennis?
Yeah.
I was just wondering whether you thought there was any limitations in terms of the products that you could use this model for, so particularly high value. You mentioned a MacBook, for example. Is that really going to work on a bike going through Gourley, to use an earlier example? Or large items like Saturn Deliver washing machines. You can't really put one of those on the back of a bike. So
yeah, you're absolutely right. I think There are, as I said, I think the main limitations that we worry about are regarding size and volume, because at least so far, we don't have those super high capacity bikes in our fleet that might be able to have house 200 kilograms and above. So there is a current limitation, which we say also because at the end, it's more a courier service. So it's actually one person handling, and so it needs actually to be lifted by that one person. So what we say is we have a limitation of 20 kilograms per delivery, which is probably on the larger side of normal postal service deliveries. And this is this limitation. And we of course also want to work to overcome that step by step. And we want to do this by diversifying our fleet. So we have currently a mixed fleet between normal bikes, a little bit more high capacity bikes. We do have scooters, and we have cars. And we see having the mixed solution is key to actually accommodate different retailers, because there might be consumer electronics retailers, which honestly have quite simple products to deliver. Even a microwave is probably quite easy to do. Washing machine is unfortunately out of scope for us. And but there are also DIY players who we speak to them, and then we say, okay, but how do you do the 800 kilogram of cement? Okay, this also might be out of scope, but we're working hard to overcome this. We are less worried about the value concerns, because here we try to overcome that by having really close tracking. So on the one hand, for example, for high value goods, the courier, they scan a QR code of this right delivery when they pick it up. So we are sure that actually the pickup process is happening, and is happening actually in person. And then for the handover, we also, again, either do it via PIN code that is sent in advance to the customer and then exchange at door to our couriers, or we also do personal identification, card identification, and in order to make sure it's delivered to the right people. Because in addition to high value goods, there might be also more sensitive products like medical goods or pharmaceutical products in general, and we want to be super sure that those products are only delivered to the right customers. And so far, the data shows that we do a good job here.
Mm-hmm. You have another question here?
So from what it seems like you're doing right now, you're having the couriers deliver directly to the people. Is there anything that you're looking towards in the future regarding delivering to parcel lockers or pickup and delivery locations?
Yes, definitely. So what we see is, especially in cases that are a little bit less local. So I mean, if there are some merchants that have a super high density. I think we talk about supermarkets, we talk about drugstores, or just those. For those, it's not that important. But there might be either semi-local or have just warehouses in the periphery of the city. And I think here, having some form of micro-fulfillment centers in the city, for example, at parking garages, or as some of the other solutions that we talked about already earlier, is super important to do this. Of course, there's a cost element to this, but we are also investigating options to deliver this. And lockers might be one of the solutions here to enable this. At the end, how we think about it is starting at a retailer and then building the journey from there. So I think the key element is a retailer willing to also do this type of model? Do they have the need? And if they do so, then we usually develop a solution for this.
Welcome to the Last Mile Delivery Podcast, your front row seat to the technological advancements shaping the future of last mile logistics. This podcast includes recordings from our Last Mile Delivery meetup, offering you exclusive insights and discussions about the cutting edge of the final mile in logistics. If you're interested in finding out more about upcoming events, technological updates, and industry news, subscribe to the Bettermile newsletter. The link is in our bio.
More expensive than having a normal carrier service. And I think the key element here is, yes, there is of course, if it is a high-value product, then some of the retailers are more happy to take a share of the delivery costs by themselves, because they then, if you sell a product for €1,000, it's easier to pay, just making this up, €10 for delivery, if you sell a €10 product. However, what we also see in the data is there is actually increased willingness to pay also from the consumer, from the customer side, for actually instant delivery. Because I think the next day delivery, the typical express delivery, has lost a little bit its charm, and it's not really up to date anymore. anymore. And then I think with just a little bit difference in added cost, a customer can update and upgrade to the to an instant delivery, which is then more or less dominating in the sense of some of the still expensive, still with additional cost connected, but less convenient solutions.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions here from on-site? Yes.
Do you already see some kind of a scale limitation in this model coming out of the whole complexity of integrations, as well as also knowing that different partners will have different ways of working, systems, etc., etc.?
Mm-hmm. I think it's a super good question. I think there are two elements to it. The one bit, as you mentioned, is the integrating part, and the other side is the the limitations and scale of the network itself. And I think they are working in different directions. If you start first with the network itself, I think as any network, the magic starts to happen when we reach a certain scale, because then, for example, the routing can be way more efficient. Also the batching size, how many orders one courier can handle, while still, for example, delivering within 30 minutes, can be increased quite a lot. Or also the operations of micro fulfillment centers, of course, becomes more economical feasible if it reaches a certain scale. So actually here, scale is in our advantage. And this is also just from a different side, how I think when we looked at the Q-commerce madness that started during COVID times, where some of those companies struggled because they wanted to do their own operations, but did not find the scale to actually do it. And then the costs were too high to maintain a running operation. I think on the other side, you are absolutely right. If we talk about integrations, especially large companies, they might not always be the fastest moving when it comes to integrations. And then I think it can be a challenge to find the best match. And you're also 100% right, the technical integration, the actually APIs, finding the best possible way, I think is the only way how it can scale. And here, I think one key element is intermediary partners who build integrations. For example, who are already connected to web shops, who are connected to the point of sale, and then can act as intermediaries between the different systems and then make it more scalable.
All right. Thanks so far. Please give a hand to Dennis for his presentation. And I'll ask all presenters to the stage. And also, please, can we connect Gregory from Belgium? And we'll just keep you guys seated here. Hi, Gregory. How are you doing? So we can't hear you yet, but guys will...
Yeah, fine, thank you.
Oh, so we have one. Need one more.
Here you go.
So, sorry. Please take a seat. Dennis, I want to connect to your presentation, and because I wanted to ask this question anyway. First of all, I think it's quite interesting that one of the most dominant international standardization players is now tackling to leverage local commerce. Mm-hmm. This is a kind of thing that I have to get together in my brain, because when you talk about local commerce, you talked about MediaMarkt Saturn. When I think about local commerce, I talk about the pottery in my street, which is a different thing. But they also want to do be part of the e-commerce game or the omni-channel game. How would you make sure for the pottery in my street that you actually can get them connected to the e-commerce play in the future? Because you would have the leverage, right?
Yeah, I think if you look again at those 3 dimensions that we have in local commerce, it depends a little bit of how strong the local brand is. If, for example, it's a pottery who is doing selling great products, but might not be known to that many people, then getting access to marketplace might be more important, because then suddenly, and just by it's a scalable solution. Also, if there's just one person who's managing the presence, they can get access to millions of users. At the same time,
like Etsy or
yeah, exactly, and. Or also the Uber Eats marketplace, depending on if it could be relevant for them as well. And then the second element, I think we also see a lot of like local heroes that might not be like super big corporation. Also, like of course, MediaMarkt Saturn is a super large company, but they might be locally quite known, and they have a strong brand, and they have actually people actively going to their channels and purchasing goods. And then, but they might still be struggling because then, for example, if you just as Amazon as an example, then there might be a similar product that is sold there and might have like a superior experience because they just have so much tech and so strong systems in place. And here we want to support them by just being like a plug-and-play solution. So they have the website. We do not want to take over their presence. We say you have your own brand, and at the end, your customers can be more happy if they do quick delivery, and you can offer it via your website, and we have different levels of integration because they might not then have the most sophisticated API integration. So either we go via a partner, for example, if they have a Shopify shop, then they can integrate us directly, or even just do it totally manually, and they can, as you would usually order Uber, just order the courier, and then even for in-store deliveries, use the service and use the delivery.
Still, it would be more a courier service, right? Which means you're not delivering 50 stops, 100 stops. It would be more like a direct delivery from point A to point B in a local environment. Inga, connecting to you, we also talked about parcel, but you probably would also have other customers, right?
Yes.
In this that do more direct delivery, or even handyman or other people who need stuff on the street and don't want to use in condensed areas and don't want to use a car. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, and also in defined areas, like on university campuses, like when their handymen are going from one side to the other. Like this is like quite popular to use a cargo bike then, and but also for sure, like if you would like to integrate Onos into your fleet, this is for sure also possible, like, especially for those parcels that are, I would say, like above those 25 to 50 that you can carry on the bicycles behind, or like for the dimensions would not be a good, are not suitable on bicycles. For sure, like a bigger vehicle like ours would be like for a very quick delivery, very useful. But we also do have customers, for example, like besides handyman and facility management, in laundry services and so on. It's like who have different stores maybe in one city and do one tour, or laboratories who need to bring stuff on a certain time or pick it up at a certain doctor at a certain time. And so this is like the diversity on commerce that we can do with the bike is quite big. But we initially did it for the parcel delivery, but now see that it finds a lot of lovers also outside the parcel delivery. But it was, it is important to be in all of those, I would say, to make it an accepted vehicle also in the streets, because at the end, it is like we are in the streets, we are in the environment. It needs to be a vehicle, like when you bring in something new that is accepted by society, and and gets love.
Inge, you presented these wonderful pictures of Paris transforming into a green city from Barcelona, etc.
Yeah.
And I love those too. But I also love online shopping and very low cost of delivery. Yeah. And sorry to bring you back to the real world, but this is like the world that we are in, right? So we, all of us, and I mean, you probably all know this from yourself, we are in this constant struggle of like what is economically viable and in our interest, and what is feasible for or sustainable from that perspective. And like most of us work in an industry where it is a high volume, low margin business, and the key word is stop density. You know, I just remember Dennis' presentation, and when I was Gregory's presentation, and I was asking you, Gregory, about how do you handle the additional sorting, and you were not even understanding my question in the first place, because you have so much stop density, right, that you don't need a resorting, right? While most of the other players would. And if I look at the Uber model, I mean, this is like almost like a direct connection.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit of this economical perspective of things, and that affects us all, right? And maybe also, I'm starting with you, Dennis. Do you have any plans to increase the stop density for your tours when it comes to these kind of courier services? So not delivering one, but rather maybe 20 or 25 stops in a row, even if it's not direct delivery, but maybe is a couple of hours later on the same day.
Exactly, yeah. So 100%. I think increasing stop density is key of making this solution, like generally the concept of urban delivery, viable for customers. Because at the end, if it's too expensive, most customers might not choose this option. And I think the key aspect here is on two points. I think tying in also to what you said earlier, I think it's super important to have like a diverse fleet of delivery options to enable different stop densities. The super high ones, like that might still be vans, like the medium ones, but then might be high capacity cars, capacity bikes, but also they might still be a little bit more expensive than having just a small bike, maybe for like a super quick delivery. This is the one bit, and I think like diversifying here is super important. And the last bit is one additional lever for stop density is, of course, like finding the scale, finding more customers, but also giving them different options for delivery models that increase it. They increase the possibility to do good batching. And for example, like this 90-minute is definitely not the option for all customers and might not even handle the majority of deliveries. Well, but for example, just collecting it maybe and then having one or two tours a day, which still could, for example, like achieve delivery times less than 4 hours after the order, can have super high stop density and still delivering on this promise of quick delivery.
Yeah, I made an observation recently, not with Uber, but with Volt. I think I can tell the name. When ordering food, I get offered the possibility to book on this delivery another product, even from other places around the restaurant, on top. So I can basically add like toilet paper or whatever I need urgently to the basket, and the courier will pick it up. So it's 2 collections, but only one like direct connection and delivery. So I thought that's quite smart, right? Gregory, stop density from your perspective. You also heard the numbers from research from Inga with a lower cost in this mixed fleet. Can you confirm this from a high stop density delivery organization?
Yes, it's getting it just right, I would say, because sometimes even the density doesn't compensate the fact that it's done by a bike. It depends on a lot more than just routing. And that's the part where we sometimes we get around the table with cities because they ask us, oh, what do you think about those mobility plans we're putting in place and everything, and sometimes we just need to answer, yes, you're thinking about mobility of people, but you're not thinking of mobility of goods, which are 2 separate things, and sometimes when you do the business case, yeah, it's a pity sometimes because the best solution is a van in given circumstances. Now, in very high city densities, then is the bike always the best solution, even though because there's congestion that plays a major role in that, and then you win. You always win.
You always win when you have the stop density. Yeah, so I find that's really interesting too, that kind of hybrid delivery concept. Right.
I want to add, it's not
go
because
ahead.
of just the density. Sometimes you may have a low density of parcels, but because you're going faster with the bike, it compensates your density.
No.
And that's where the margin is very small.
Perfect handover to me asking Latha, stop density, right? Whether it's bike or van, you have the comparison, right? It's not only about the navigation, it's also about the sequence. So what do you see from a navigation and sequence perspective as the differences? Looking on a map with like a small area with a lot of stops and a big area with a handful of stops, right? What's the impact?
Well, certainly there's that, but then there's so many other layers. And I think that's one of the things that when you are getting, for example, the data from here, you're going to see the layer of traffic, right? You're going to see the layer of construction. You're going to see the layer which is those city zones, which may be, as we mentioned, there may have hours that are not even allowed for van traffic. So of course, there is the idea of geographic spread and the density of your waypoints, but then you also have to layer on all these other factors. And when you do that, we go out driving both with vehicles and with bikes, and it can take so much time to sit in traffic, to reroute because of double or triple parked cars. There are so many ways in which a large vehicle is slowed down, and a bike would have much better access. And as you're saying, like in dense city centers, a bike has so many advantages that it can even be deceptive to look at a map without these other factors involved.
Interesting. As a last angle I want to tackle, we talked about the shipper perspective. We talked about the consignee perspective. We talked about the delivery organization's perspective. But I think we missed a very specific part in this value chain that's probably the most important, which is the actual person delivering. Right, the people doing it, and there are also legacy models out there. So we regularly have the employed business model versus the subcontracted version. So Inga, maybe starting from you, you have the direct feedback from the drivers and from the delivery organizations who employ the drivers or subcontract the drivers. What's their feedback? Do they like riding bikes?
Well, actually, there are always ones who don't and ones who do.
Is it a different type of driver who does this, or are people switching over?
Most of the companies, they are hiring for cargo bikes. And if you're hiring for cargo bikes, people love the cargo bike, and they do it out of a conviction. At the beginning, we had those drivers changing from events or from vans generally to cargo bikes, and they were very surprised. They had this experience you mentioned, that they were loved and that they were taken pictures with. Especially in Hamburg, we've got a fleet. They've got a micro hub that is really close to the really in the center where all the tourists are, and they're taking continuously pictures with tourists. And those drivers, they really love the bikes. But we also know, if you just don't give the people the choice, what to do, and do you say a person who for 20 years did deliveries with vans, then it is also when I do present the vehicle, they would resist. They would resist, or at least tell me first why they wouldn't drive it. At the end, they all drive it, and we do a training for all of those at the beginning, so that you get comfortable with it. And I think this, giving the people also some time to, when they do their first routing with a cargo bike, to give them a bit more time, to get used to the vehicle, to where I can now move, to give them a bit more time to get used to this new option to move is really key in general, to get, to hire the acceptance also within the driving fleet.
it's a good reminder, because we're not talking only about technology, operational process. We're talking about a transformation that's happening into delivery organizations, basically. Gregory, what's your experience with that? In your like Ecozones, where you blend all those different delivery methods, what was the impact to your employed fleet or subcontract? I think you have an employed fleet, right? Or employed drivers?
We have an employee fleet, yes, less than a percent, I think. Not just on the number, but less than a percent is subcontracted for the last mile drivers. But as it stands, we have a whole program in place for that. So you need to form your drivers. So when somebody starts at bpost, is it driving a van? Is it driving a bike? Doing these deliveries on foot? They go through a standard program where they need to follow. Oh yeah, you can drive a bike, you can drive that car. So all mobility solutions that they employ, they need kind of internal bpost driving license, I would say. It's not really a driving license, but you're approved to drive with that type of vehicle. And we see that sometimes it's cultural also, because in Belgium mainly, different regions have different visions about driving bikes. So in the Flanders, we are more Dutch-minded, so everything is natural. Everybody possesses 3 bikes at home. But going toward the south, there it's less of a cultural thing of doing bicycle, and therefore more difficult to implement. They just kick back towards their car, because they're used to use their car. And then you have also the cultures, because Brussels, for example, is a melting pot of different cultures. And yeah, depending from which culture you come, sometimes a car is a symbol, which is also difficult to make sure that, okay, now those people, we want them to use bikes. You need to challenge their mindsets on why they are using a van, because sometimes it's proven to be more efficient, but perception, as mentioned earlier, is a big thing. They think it goes faster with the car, whereas with the bike it's more efficient also for them, because there's less stress on. So a lot of the time it's change management. It's discussing, doing and joining the drivers on the new rounds they are doing, and talking with them. So it's really about change management at the end.
So I think we can conclude it is necessary. We have to do it. We have to do this transformation. It's highly complex from a technological, from a vehicle perspective, from a business model perspective. It's transformation, and it's even a change of culture. So I want to thank you guys very, very much for presenting to us today. I want to thank you guys for participating. I wish you a great networking event. We need to talk to each other. We cannot reinvent the wheel. We have to work together and to make this transformation happen. Really looking forward to it. Thanks, everyone. Give yourself a hand. Thanks for participating. Everyone at home and also here, please do not forget, sign up at bettermile.com/meetup to our newsletter to know about the next meetup. It will happen 2-3 months probably, and we'll bring some fantastic speakers in. If you have any speakers that you want to recommend, or if you want to speak yourself, please reach out to us, and we're happy to evaluate together with you. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night and a safe trip home. Thanks.
Thank you for joining us on this journey through the Last Mile Delivery Meetup. We hope you enjoyed the exclusive insights and discussions shared during this podcast. If you are interested in finding out more about upcoming events, technological updates, and industry news, subscribe to the Bettermile newsletter. The link is in our bio. Thanks for listening.